Is PFL lightweight champion Usman Nurmagomedov going to be leaving the promotion to sign with the UFC? We got a few hints that are out there right now, and I'm going to talk about those in today's video. My name is James Lynch. So obviously Usman getting a huge win on Friday, a highlight reel finish over Archie Colgan, getting it done, and that was the end of his contract with PFL. So the big question is, will he be staying? Will he be going? And I thought personally Jake Paul kind of handled things badly. Of course, Jake Paul and MVP merging with the PFL. I did a whole video on this. You guys can check it out here, talking about the post-fight, which I don't think helped the case of Usman staying there. But I've seen a lot of different opinions on, whether Usman's going to go to the UFC or not. We'll talk about those in a sec, but we did get a little bit of a hint here from UFC president Dana White, and you can see it from Championship Rounds. They grabbed the clip here. It said Dana White had the biggest smile on his face when he was asked about signing Usman Nurmagomedov. Let's go watch the 11-second clip, and we'll get sort of an idea of Dana White's thoughts on Usman Nurmagomedov. Let's have a watch.
And last one from me, Usman Nurmagomedov has finished his contract with PFL. Is that someone you'd be interested in signing and bringing to the UFC?
Sure.
Cool.
Dana.
Yeah. So you can see there, they zoom in on his face and he looks very happy about this. And listen, I've been at press conferences where they've asked Dana White about free agent fighters. He doesn't always give this response, right? Sometimes they'll be like, oh, it's something we're looking into, or oh, we're always looking to sign the best fighters. But to get a sure like this is a good sign for those who do want to see Usman in the UFC. And then to add it all up, and this clip, by the way, got 1 million views from Championship Rounds, Dana White with the smile emoji as well too. So, again, want to be clear about something. This doesn't mean Usman is signed with the UFC, okay? Let's not do the Twitter journalism. I talked about this in a couple of videos back about how there probably will be people saying, breaking news, Usman is signed with the UFC because Dana White had a smiley emoji. No, that doesn't mean that, but I will say it does lead to some positive ideas about Usman signing with the UFC here. I think it helps. Again, Dana doesn't always do this with every fighter, and I think he knows and has been aware of Usman as well, plus the last name with him being related to Khabib Nurmagomedov, with the fact that UFC goes to the Middle East a lot. There's a lot of reasons to bring Usman Nurmagomedov into the UFC. His manager has Usman's manager has very close ties to the UFC. He manages a bunch of fighters on the roster. There's a good relationship, and this seems like a very easy transition if Usman wants to do it. Now, one of the things I keep hearing is that, Usman's not going to get paid as much, and that's probably true. I don't think he's going to, if you do a quick AI search here, it says we're making anywhere from $500,000 per fight to, I've heard, upwards to $1 million. I know Dakota Davicha is another one who's getting paid really well by PFL. If it's all about money, then yeah, PFL would probably end up paying more. But the big question I have is PFL, do they have any viable challengers to Usman Nurmagomedov? If you look at the lightweight rankings right now, he's already beat Alexander Shelby. Gadsy and him, I don't know if they're teammates or they're friendly. I know they have the same management as well. Probably would help if I actually checked it out. I'm pretty sure they all train together. So, again, is that a guy you'd be rushing to fight here? A fellow Russian? Probably not. You've got Archie Colgan, who he just beat. He already beat Alfie Davis. Jakub Kasuba has done quite well, but he's not exactly someone that, and I like Jakub, really good interview, by the way. But he's not someone that I think, he is 16-0 and 31 years old. But not someone, he's getting a lot of decision wins here against some okay opposition. Natan Schultz was a former PFL champ. That's not bad. Maybe that's an option for him. I guess what I'm getting at here is, like, if you go down the rankings here, there's not a lot of compelling matchups here. There's not like, a fight that like really stands out that Usman could have next. And obviously that's PFL's job to figure that out, or maybe bring in a free agent or someone else. But I just think we're at the point now with Usman Nurmagomedov where if you look at the age here, he's 22-0, he's 28 years old. I just don't know if there's much left for him to prove because, let's go all the way back to when he signed with Bellator in 2021. The reason he signed with Bellator as opposed to the UFC was because Islam Makhachev was champion. Islam has since moved up to 170. And I don't think there's anything really stopping him from, going to the UFC now with the fact that his teammate and mentor is in a new weight class here. So I think, again, that leads to the fact that Usman might want to leave and go forward. And again, when I look at these Bellator fights, Bellator, PFL, obviously PFL took over Bellator, but to me, it's like he's given a lot of service to the Bellator/PFL promotion. He's had 4 fights now for PFL. That's more than enough. And again, I don't think there's a viable challenger out there. But let's look at some of the comments because I got a lot of pushback on this. And I wanted to respond to these in this video because I think people are missing a lot here when it comes to some of the comments. So let's go have a quick look here. It says, I hope Usman leaves. I hope you guys can read this, by the way. I'm using Photoshop. Maybe I'll zoom in a little bit more here. I hope Usman leaves the PFL, but Chonko is also in the UFC's lightweight division, so I don't know if he wants to compete against him. Either way, I'm interested to see where he ends up next. So I'm getting a lot of these comments from Usman Nurmagomedov fans saying, oh, but Chonko's in the UFC, and that's probably why he won't sign. You don't believe me? There's a bunch of them here. You're the only one saying he goes to the UFC because you want him to go to the UFC, LOL. I mean, yeah, I do. I think everyone does. I want to see him fight the best. I don't like watching fights where someone is a minus 500 favorite. I want to see them competitive. You're not factoring in anything else. Sure, he wants to solidify his legacy, but at the cost of getting half he would have gotten the PFL, he will have more bigger paydays outside the UFC in the future. It simply wouldn't be the right choice. Maybe we'll see him in the few years, but not for now. Well, he's coming up to the prime of his career now. He's 28. I would say the prime of most fighters is early 30s. So he is right about that maybe you could get a couple more years, but why? Why not just go now? You don't have a champion teammate there. And you've got Chanko, I'll talk about in a sec, but I want to read the rest of these comments because I got some arguments about this. Without knowing what the UFC and PFL are offering, it's dumb to say that he's going to sign with the UFC. He's going to whoever will pay him the most. Come on, guy, use your brain. People getting a little spicy here about the fact that Usman may go to the UFC next. Remember, Chanko's in the UFC. I doubt he's coming to the UFC. I love how people just forget that Chanko fought last weekend and somehow I lost my memory and didn't remember. Oh yeah, you're right. He did fight. So of course he's not going to go to the UFC. I don't think Usman will come to the UFC because Chanko's in there as well. And you're seeing a theme with this. This is hyperbolic nonsense and a non-issue. Nobody cares but you. They are re-signing with the PFL because they pay more. Well, yeah, I know they pay more, but that doesn't mean he's going to necessarily sign there. Jake was drunk. Usman's 28, continued to get easier checks while he's being paid a lot. He gets to stack up his record and go UFC 30-31. He's a star for PFL. They'll pay him. I have no doubt the PFL is going to pay him. The PFL would pay him more money. But this idea, and again, this goes back to a fan base that overrates their fighters big time. And listen, I like Chanko. I think he's a great fighter. We saw the debut 2 weekends ago. He looked awesome. Really good performance there against Damon Rezbecki here. But he also went the distance with that guy. He didn't finish him. And if you look at the guys that he's fought previous, it doesn't give us a huge indication that he's going to be some UFC champion. I think there's a little bit of arrogance on this fan base that think that Chanko's automatically going to be UFC champion after one fight. That's my take from it. Let me know if I'm wrong in the comments here. But people saying that Usman Nurmagomedov will not sign because Chanko's in the UFC, I think is total nonsense. There is 60 to 70 lightweight fighters on the roster right now. The chances of him fighting Chanko are very slim. The UFC's not going to force that unless they're both in title contention. And we don't even know where that's going to end up. The other thing we got to look at is where do they value Usman in terms of his skill set? You would think with him being a PFL champion that he wouldn't just have to work his way up. He might be just a couple fights away from, getting a UFC title shot. Look at Michael Chandler when he came over from Bellator. He had, I think, the Dan Hooker fight, and then he immediately got to fight Oliveira. Who's to say the UFC doesn't do this? Chanko's nowhere near a title shot. And if fans are watching this and enjoying this video, please hit that like button and subscribe button. I do appreciate it. But he's not close to a title shot at all. You are just delusional if you were thinking that because of one performance. Yes, he's undefeated, but he's also 31 and he hasn't fought the best opposition yet. And I don't get the sense that the UFC is going to skyrocket this guy to a title shot. Look how long it took him just to get a UFC fight. He fought in October and now he's fighting in July. So I think the fans of Chanko and Usman, I think they're overhyping Chanko big time, just assuming he's going to be champion. And that's the reason that Usman won't fight. I think Usman's going to be closer to title contention than Chanko would be if he came over to the UFC, and the chances of them fighting, it would take a while, and by that time, maybe Usman wants to move up a weight class when Islam retires. I don't know, but I don't think this is an issue. You guys let me know in the comments, but I think Chanko being on the UFC roster makes no difference. Last time I checked, Islam Makhachev fought in the UFC when Khabib was also in the UFC as well. It's not like Islam said, I can't come to the UFC because Khabib is champion. He knew that at some point Khabib was going to retire or move on. Chanko's 31. Again, he's a few years older than Usman Nurmagomedov as well. So yeah, if you look at it here, again, Islam was signed with the UFC way back in 2016 when Khabib was still competing. Sorry, longer than that. He signed in 2015 and Khabib was still competing as well. I don't even think Khabib was champ at that time, right? Khabib was champ after 2015, if I'm not mistaken. So let me just quickly look it up because I know someone in the comments will be like, well, actually, when did Khabib become champ? He became champion in 2017, so a couple years after Islam signed. So again, why would that prevent? You don't think Islam is like, well, I'm going to go to Bellator because Khabib's potentially going to be champ. No, it's not a thing. So yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm leaning more towards the side that I think Usman will go to the UFC because I don't think I don't think it's all about money with these guys. I think it is about the competition as well. And I think just looking at this from the outside in, I just don't think that Usman wants to spend his career fighting subpar competition, even if it is for another 2 years. I've seen some people suggest, oh, well, he can just re-sign with PFL for a year or two and then move on. I don't know. Again, Dana doesn't do this all the time. I want to be clear about this. This doesn't mean that they have signed Usman, and I'm not going to be going on, saying this is breaking news that he signed him, but it's a good sign. And I think if I'm a betting man right now, which I am, I think Usman's going to end up in the UFC. I think the big question is, will that be this year or next year? Will they look ahead? It depends what they want to do with them. But you got to imagine, look how happy Dana is. You got to imagine they're going to sign him. And again, I think this was always the plan, was that they would let Usman build up his profile a bit, become sort of the guy. Because if he had signed with the UFC right off the bat, yeah, there'd be hype. But I think he's got more hype with the fact that he built his own brand in PFL and became the lightweight champion. Again, I know PFL is going to do everything in their power to keep him. They have to. It's pretty much, they have two huge stars, Dakota and Usman Nurmagomedov. They don't want to lose them. But again, I think the Jake Paul thing didn't help. Again, go watch that video if you haven't seen it. And I just think as well, the UFC wants the best talent, and they go to the Middle East a lot. Usman Nurmagomedov is someone they would gladly headline an Abu Dhabi card or, one of these big events that they have coming up. So yeah, I'm a betting man. I think Usman Nurmagomedov is going to end up in the UFC. And I think all these people talking about Chonko, I don't think that's really a thing. So let me know your thoughts in the comments here. Do you think Usman is going to land with the UFC, or do you think he re-signs with PFL? Would love to hear from you guys. Would love to get your feedback on this one. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.